On this week's episode, we're going to discuss Linux Mint 22, Wilma. Is that based on the Flintstones?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Is it the greatest Linux release this year? Plus, we have some cool mobile news that you can fold and take with you on the go. Nobody's going to know what that is. Welcome to Destination Linux, where we discuss the latest news, hot topics, gaming, mobile, and all things open source and Linux. My name is Ryan.
I'm Jill.
And I'm Michael.
Also this week, we have a do-it-yourself Linux project to avoid being tracked by your television. Plus, we have some more Linux gaming, software spotlight, and more. Let's get this show on the road towards Destination Linux. So in our community feedback this week, it comes from our Archaic Lord. Archaic Lord has finally sent us a message after all this time. Thank you, Archaic Lord. He says, I was just listening to episode 345. See, that shows you how archaic they are.
That's an accurate name for sure.
Yeah.
For those who are curious, 345 is a lot less than 382.
Yeah. So Archaic Lord's about a year behind, but that's fine. I'm happy Archaic Lord's going back, being archaic like normal, and listening to all the older episodes.
Yeah.
There's so much great content. You could actually just start it and play it and let it continuously play for weeks and enjoy all of it. Actually, you should do that right now.
Yeah. Well, not right now. Finish this one, then give it a thumbs up and 5 stars, then go back and...
Okay, yeah, I agree with that for sure. Mm-hmm.
But our Archaic Lord says, I wanted to share my micro WSL Linux theory, which is Microsoft is promoting Linux in a way which makes Windows users believe Linux is a Windows thing made by Windows, run by Windows, and just not correcting that and allowing everyone to think Linux belongs to Microsoft, subconsciously taking mind share of Linux without directly doing it. So that's an interesting...
It's an interesting thought. It also makes some sense because the way that Microsoft sometimes promotes things is to kind of imply that they have something to do with it. And it's interesting because Microsoft does technically have something to do with it. They do contribute to the kernel and all that sort of stuff. So in this case, it's an interesting topic because of the fact that Microsoft is also using it in a sense of not only because they're getting people to use Linux this way so that they can skip the actual platform, because that's really what I feel like they're trying to do. It's just hey, all the things you want that Linux can offer, well, we can sort of pretend to do it by putting it into this thing. I think that's what their main goal is. But it's kind of funny that I think there's some truth to this because there's some people who have been confused by what Linux is because of this subsystem thing, whatever.
Yeah, so I remember getting a lot of heat back then over this when we first started talking about this because I had similar thoughts of that this was not good for Linux ultimately. I remember we even got the attention of the lead WSL developer and had them on the show where they were kind of defending their work because of some of my angry rants. And I think I made a lot of people over at Canonical upset with me back then because of it. But
also to be clear, it's not the Canonical did not employ the lead WSL developer. It was someone who was a lead at Canonical's WSL implementation and stuff like that. Yeah, just to be clear.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because also you had a different take, but I agreed in the sense ultimately it's not a good thing for Linux. And I don't know why anybody would it's one of the main things that people talk about is that Linux is so good for developers because of all these different features that we have that Windows can't do. And WSL is literally trying to siphon that away into Windows. So, I mean,
kind of, but I've changed my perspective on it after seeing it. Number one, it's very clunky. It's clunky to set up and get installed.
Yeah.
It's not like there's some prompt when you first log in. It's hey, you want to install WSL, this thing that will let you run open source applications or anything nefarious like that. You've got to go and explicitly turn on these additional settings in Windows. And then you got to go in the App Store and download Ubuntu or whichever one you choose. I think Kali's in there and some other things. And then when you're done, all you get is a terminal. So if somebody was following these steps online, hey, I want to try Linux, and then they go through the WSL and all they get is a terminal, I could see how it would give potentially a bad taste in people's mouth about Linux, this is Linux, just a blinking cursor and a black terminal screen. But I think
is probably why they did it that way too.
I think because it's so behind the scenes, most people aren't going to stumble upon it like that. And the reality is it's going to be for developers. And it's much like saying, Windows being able to be installed on Mac through Parallels is taking away from Windows when you run it on Mac. And so,
that's different because you're actually literally running Windows on the Mac, just in a virtual environment, where this is, you are not using a Linux distro. You're using a core implementation where, like, technically you have to get a distro, but it's a WSL distro. It's not a Linux distro. So you're getting a very stripped down version that is specifically for this purpose. And you can run GUIs and some stuff in there.
To turn it on, which is even more clunky.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's a clunky experience, but I think partially, I think that Archaic Lord, fantastic name, is right in the sense that they're trying to do it this way, but also not necessarily take credit for it. But I think they're trying to make it look like it's a thing, that it's theirs. And also for those who don't think that they think it's bad because they use it from hearing about people talking about it and they try it in this thing and it's just a bad experience because they look at Linux and like it's like a modern way to make it seem like it's the 80s and 90s version of this kind of a computing.
Yeah.
Well,
I think you can make the case, right, that they didn't want developers dual booting. And it was much easier to kind of put some of those developer tools right in WSL so they don't have to leave the Windows environment, because we know a lot of developers have written us over the years saying, no, I dual boot into Windows. I have to use Windows for some machines and I use Linux for other stuff. And this allows them to stay in Windows things. Ultimately, though, I don't think WSL has really hurt Linux in any way. I don't think it's helped it either, to be fair. I don't think we've gotten any market share off of it, but I don't think it's hurt Linux. I always think, a Linux first experience should not be a blinking terminal screen, but that's kind of how WSL. And I remember they were wanting to make it so that like you could easily run GUI apps and things through WSL. There was all these promises that were going to come with WSL,
never really happened.
But I mean, it's there technically you can, but it's just a pain to get set up and things, and it's just a mess. And I think Windows is it feels like Windows has kind of abandoned that project. There's not really much going on with it that I've seen. Maybe I'm wrong. It's not my purview if they're doing anything.
Well, if they have abandoned it, I would like to say thank you for abandoning it, because you're not doing anything good for us, and you're really not doing anything good for you, because you're making it seem like they can do the same sort of stuff, but it's also super awkward and clunky. And you should promote them using like a virtual machine instead. And just say, hey, just do that. That's kind of like would be Windows and Parallels would be the same kind of thing. Yeah. So I would prefer that sort of thing, but I'd also just prefer them to, give us stuff that they make at the same time of using this. Like if you're going to make WSL, then also give us Office, and then we're good.
What do you think, Jill?
Yeah. So I know a lot of IT people that use WSL on Microsoft, and it's really, handy for them because, again, you don't have to dual boot. But when they really want to get work done, they do dual boot into Linux.
Right.
So, and going on the point that Archaic Lord was talking about is that this is kind of the same also with Microsoft Azure. I don't know how many journalists and articles I have read where people don't realize that's Linux and they think it's Microsoft Windows.
Now that's a good case for saying Linux has been obfuscated from Windows as Azure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually kind of a good thing in this sense because of the recently where they had the whole, apparently it's a DDoS, but they had a huge outage for Azure. And people were complaining about Microsoft. So if they knew it was Linux, they'd probably blame Linux for it or something.
Yeah.
Well,
now you just told them. Thanks a lot, Michael. Now we're going to get all this blame coming our way.
You already told them.
Oh, darn it.
I was just saying that this is another way of looking at it in a way that it's kind of good that they don't know.
Here we are fighting, and it's all because of Archaic Lord. He is so archaic. Or they are so archaic. We don't know what Archaic Lord is, but they are archaic for sure. Archaic. My Lord.
I imagine Archaic Lord being a techno mage from Babylon 5.
Oh, there you go. Well, if you're a lord of some domain, archaic or not, you can send in your comments to us. Go to destinationlinux.net/comments to send them there, or destinationlinux.net/forum, and you can tell us all about your thoughts and experiences as the Lord of something.
Right. What your lordship is of. Yeah.
What your lordship is of. All right. So Linux Mint 22, Michael. Last week, I made fun of you, rightfully so. I had a great rip, right, with the CrowdStrike discussion about distro hopping.
Yeah.
And we never mentioned the distro that you distro hopped to.
Right. We never
that you were
did.
having problems with, which was what, Michael?
It was Linux Mint 22.
Wilma.
Yeah. And this was interesting because the error I was having is that Chromium-based browsers were not loading. And Firefox would load just fine, but the Chromium-based stuff would not. So Brave, Vivaldi, Chrome, Chromium, it didn't matter. None of them would load. And we had this issue, and then I had to switch to my Fedora machine so we could do the show. And then after the show, I decided to switch back to start seeing if I could figure it out. And I opened the app, and they all worked.
Yeah. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
All I did was literally just reboot it, and it fixed it. And it
happens.
It happens. It's true.
So something got hung. I mean, in fairness, it was freshly released that week. Right?
Yes,
that was the week
absolutely.
it was released. So
it was not even officially released.
In fairness, I was given early access to the ISO, and that was what I was using that happened with it. So it was. I would give them a little bit more leeway because it wasn't even the final release yet. So
it is funny, right? Happening, but we're not blaming Linux Mint necessarily for it because it was just once you rebooted, it was fixed. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also like it's an issue that it's happened for it's happened to people I've seen on forums for a variety of different years. Like it's been over many years, but at the same time, everybody has no idea what's wrong because every time they just try it again and it works.
Yeah,
I mean, this has happened for years with Linux Mint specifically.
Well, the particular not this particular issue, but that particular error I was given. When I loaded it, I loaded the applications inside of the terminal, and it gave me an error, and I put that error in. And maybe it's just an error that is I forgot it's something to do with GTK and a package not being there. But then the package is there, so all you do is reboot, and it basically finds the package properly. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And also, I've rebooted multiple times since, and the issue is gone. I have not had it again. So. It was just a fluke right before we start recording. It wouldn't let me. It was the first time I tried to open one of those applications. That's true. Because I always use Firefox. So when the first time I needed to try it, that's when it happened. So maybe it was just the first
interesting.
run.
I'm in a virtual machine of Linux Mint 22, fully installed in the virtual machine world. And I just installed Chromium and tried to launch it, and nothing's coming up, not even an error. So it just doesn't come up at all.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it wouldn't load. Maybe it's the first run of the browsers. So what you do is I went into the menu settings. So you just right click the start menu, and then there's an edit applications thing. Go into the application for that particular one, and then you just say launch in terminal, and then it will open a terminal as it's launching, showing you the error. And that's where I found the error. So for the same thing happened to me. It would not give an actual error whatsoever. It just didn't load. So I had to do that to see what the error was.
Okay, so I'm getting a Mesa error. Zinc failed to choose PDEV. GLX failed to create DRISW screen. And let me close. That was before I did the whole switch to terminal. Now let me run it from a terminal and see. I just typed Chromium in a terminal. Now I'm doing the launch from Chromium. It's interesting. We're live testing.
We're live, troubleshooting
this issue. Because what I'm going to do is while we go through the rest of Wilma, I don't want to focus on this solely. I'm going to reboot and see if the issue's just gone. Because
that would
we're able to reproduce this and bug report it. So I got that same Mesa Z-Link error. So now I'm just going to reboot here and we'll see if it works after that. All right. So don't let that dissuade you because Wilma has some very cool features that we're going to get into. Number one, its system requirements are ridiculously low for what you're getting here. 2 gigabytes of RAM is the minimum. 4 is recommended. 2 gigabytes of RAM. 20 gigabytes of disk space. Again, 100 recommended, but you can run it as low as 20. And 1024 by 768 is the lowest resolution. Although you can go lower. You might have to draw some, drag some windows around with the pressing Alt key to do so.
Yeah, I'm currently using something that is lower. So for those who are curious, I have a multi-monitor setup, but one of the monitors is actually because I have a teleprompter. Now, we're not actually using a teleprompter because that's not how the show works. You know, it's not scripted or anything, but I still have one for other things that I record. And with this, I have a monitor setup that's connected to my computer, and it's 800 by 600 resolution, and it works just fine. So it's not the greatest monitor because it's very small, but that's the point of it for its use case. And I didn't have any issues. And one of the things I found really nice is that unlike some other desktops, it does have the ability to have different scaling stuff depending on the monitor, which is really good. So if you have high resolution or a high DPI monitor and one that's not, you can actually independently scale one than the other. So that was very nice. So I do think that there's a lot of cool polishing there. So maybe that's not necessarily the lowest, but also other than that use case, I can't imagine why you'd want an 800 by 600.
Yeah, and there's also a 32-bit version. We can't forget about that because that's supporting those older computers and keeping them out of the landfill.
I have 100% forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did entirely forget about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've used it on some of my old computers.
I'm very curious because they are based on 2404, and 2404 doesn't have a 32-bit. So I'm sure, like, what are they doing to make that? It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think is most exciting about this release is Pipewire is there by default now.
Pipewire is awesome. Yes. Yeah. I'm so happy that it's there. I mean, obviously it's because of the upgrade to 2404, but it doesn't matter why, as long as it's there, because Pipewire is awesome. For those who have not used it because you've been using Mint, you will not notice anything. And that's awesome because it's just a drop-in replacement. But if you want to get into like pro audio stuff and start messing with like jack tools, like Carla, for example, and you can be able to like do different piping, and PW Graph, I think, is one of them, where you can like go, you can connect multiple applications, you know, the output and input and all that sort of stuff, and just play with it. And you could do all sorts of cool stuff. That is possible in Pipewire without having to do any extra setup, whereas Jack requires quite a bit of setup to do.
You don't know Jack.
I don't know Jack that well, and I don't think that many people do.
I've spent probably about 6 hours before setting up Jack. And not that it was hard to do, it's just a lot of steps.
Right. So update, rebooted, opened Chromium, worked perfectly fine. Took a screenshot of, it still has the error in the background of the terminal, though, the same error I got where it wouldn't launch.
That's
initially.
true. I also got the same error, but it launched it.
But it still launches. So maybe we'll get that into a bug report and get that fixed.
Yeah.
Or maybe Linux Mint folk are listening right now.
Clem would love to hear about it.
There you go. So the Pipewire was a brilliant move. You know, they've got the 24.04 base here, and you get all the features and improvements that Ubuntu has there. The kernel version is 6.8, and they say that Linux Mint 22.x point releases will follow the HWE series for better hardware, modern hardware support.
Exactly. That's probably the biggest thing. And the Pipewire thing is cool, but I think the biggest thing is probably the hardware support, because they're pulling in the Ubuntu hardware enablement. And as everyone knows, Ryan loves the speed of which the hardware enablement happens. And
in Ubuntu specifically, yeah.
Yeah, and so fast. In Ubuntu specifically, yeah. So it's funny because this is actually like a huge upgrade. So Ryan would give Ubuntu a hard time for the whole 6-month thing, right? But Linux Mint was 2 years. So this is a huge upgrade from the previous version of Mint. So you can get the hardware support every 6 months instead of once every 2 years.
Which 6 months is still too long, but good, better. we gotten better. You know,
That's true. It is better.
We went from an electric bike to a moped, basically. You know, it's well, I mean, better.
I don't know if it's a little bit better than a moped. It's more like a moped to a motorcycle's too fast.
That's a good one. Electric bike to a moped, you know, good on you. You're a moped.
Okay. Well, how about a scooter to a scooter? And then like
to a slightly faster Vespa scooter, a generic scooter.
A generic. Yeah. Like one of the scooters you can rent and like run around the different cities and stuff. And then to a regular scooter that's also called a moped. Yeah. It doesn't work. It would have like visually when I edit this show, you'll see the difference. But now that I've explained it, it doesn't work that well.
Well, here's the thing. This isn't a Mint problem by itself. It's a Ubuntu thing. I want the hardware enablement. It would be great if this read like, hey, in addition to what Ubuntu is doing with their hardware enable, we're also going to be enabling hardware, faster throughout the 6 months and point releases and things.
Yeah, that's kind of what
excited.
System 76 do. Like they
exactly.
have updates.
That's what System 76 does. Yep. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited about their new OS specifically coming out. Because we'll
be talking about that soon.
They get the importance of hardware. Themes were updated to support GTK4, high DPI support improvements. Were made in the boot sequence and Plymouth and Slick Greeter. Thunderbird's still available as a .deb. So people who are, hating on the snap only options there, you got a .deb still, and they're supporting it themselves, which is awesome. Like, this is what we say all the time. If you want a .deb, then you got to support it and make it. And they're like, okay, we will. And there you go. You got a .deb version. Improved multi-threading from the software store. So the software store should be much faster. And I did notice it was pretty snappy after the first load, after the first cache generated.
Wait. Ryan, but they got rid of snaps. How can it be snappy?
Snappy.
Got it.
I like the security improvements they did here a lot. This really impressed me. Number one, you got verified flat packs now show the maintainer's name.
Yeah.
So you have flat packs that they're verifying with the maintainer's name. And unverified flat packs are disabled by default, which I think is a smart move from a security perspective. And if you go ahead and enable them, it's going to give you a warning of the security risks associated with using something that hasn't been verified. And
so
I think that's really smart.
I agree, but I also feel like the way it's implemented could be improved. So it's kind of like idea versus execution. I think the idea is fantastic. I would offer some suggestions to improve the way it's executed, because the unverified stuff being turned off means you're not even going to see that they exist. And that's a problem inside of a software manager when people go in, like if they're new to Linux and they don't know that the FlatHub exists to search on, and they're just going into the software manager and you search for something like Google Chrome or even Vivaldi, it will not show up inside of the software manager because that is not turned on. So I would prefer that they turn it on only for the point of showing that they exist and grayed out the install saying, hey, you need to activate the unverified to get this and that sort of stuff. That would be good, because I think that's a better approach overall, because if you don't see it, you might think that, oh, Linux can't even do these, basic applications. And Google Chrome, unfortunately, is one of the most popular browsers. And by one of, I mean the most popular browser. So it's kind of important for it to be able to be found in the search.
People who need it, right?
Yeah.
And so if you go to the hamburger menu in the software manager, click on preferences, you'll see show unverified flat packs, and then it has, in quotes, not recommended there. And that's how you would turn it on. But to Michael's point, you wouldn't know that exists unless...
Right. There is no warning that it's not there, right? It's just empty. Yeah. So if you search for Chrome or Google Chrome, it will not show anything. It won't show you the app. And I would prefer it to show the app and then say that warning of like, it's not available, but if you want to turn it on here, you can. And that sort of stuff, that's fine. And then also show the warning about it. I think that would be much better, because I think it's a little bit of a problem for not showing the applications at all. Yeah. But other than that, I don't really have a problem at all. I think it's a good idea, because I also learned something because of this. The unverified thing, because Mint is like put that change in, I started like researching about really what is and what isn't verified versus unverified. And I thought, and like a lot of people, maybe even both of you, that verified means it's officially maintained by the developers. That is not what it means. It does mean that, but not exclusively that.
Yeah.
If an application is maintained by a community member and is sanctioned, that maintainer is sanctioned by the original developers, then it's also it can be verified.
That's fine by me. That makes sense.
I'm just saying, like it's still a community maintained
clarification
thing,
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that a lot of people don't know that that's what it means, because I found out just last week that that's what it meant.
Oh, very nice. I didn't know that either, so appreciate you sharing that. And then, little things here, like Linux Mint's moved their support from HexChat to Matrix, since HexChat's deprecated.
I think this is actually bad. I understand the choice away from IRC because HexChat has been deprecated, as you said. And IRC is also kind of a problem in a way, but it has one thing better for it in this case, because this is a help chat room that you can't get into until you create an account on matrix.org or wherever.
Yeah.
So you have to know how to get into it and have a Matrix account in order to get help. And if you're brand new to Linux and you're probably brand new to Matrix, then, I
and
think
you're
that could be a
basically
problem.
saying, hey, I mean, I like the idea that you have to have an account because that keeps out a lot of the trolls and nonsense and things. I think your issue is specifically that Matrix for a new
The way of
user
setting up
is
an
a little
account
more
for
difficult to
Matrix,
set
yeah.
up, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to
I understand why they don't choose
So where would you
something like
suggest?
this.
Discord?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Oh, so you've got problems but no solutions. You know what?
Okay, I do. No, I didn't say that. I said I have solutions. I mean, that's not a chat room, but I do have some solutions.
But,
I'm not sure if they're the best solutions in general. So Discord is one option. I know some people are going to be annoyed by that, but whatever.
That's true.
Because it's not open source and all that. But also there's things like Zulip. If you never heard of it, it's kind of like an alternative to Slack. And same thing with Mattermost. And also there's another one, Rocket Chat. So you would still have to create an account, but the process of creating an account for those is simpler than Matrix and /Element.
Yeah. Or maybe
it's just because of the Element /Matrix process of getting an account is cumbersome.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe like an all-in-one app like Pigeon might be good.
Maybe, but that would also require
accounts. Yeah.
Some kind of server somewhere and some account somewhere. So like, I'm not
think they're
saying
going where most
best.
open source projects are. And, listen, I'm not a big fan of Matrix. I think I've made that very clear. So
I think
my
you're
bias
right.
aside, I think they're going to the right place for open source.
Yes, but okay. So here's the thing. One of the things I like about Linux Mint is that it is a very good choice for people who are getting into Linux for the first time and they're from Windows. And I think doing things for that user base is what they should focus on. That's why they're not showing, or I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's why they consider the fact that unverified is something that could be a problem. So because they don't know that verified flat packs versus unverified flat packs, or maybe what even a flat pack is and that sort of stuff. So I appreciate that they're putting that effort in, but I also think that Matrix/Element is too much for those users. I never really liked Hex Chat in general because I'm not an IRC fan, but at the same time, it was a simpler approach because all you had to do was open the Hex Chat application and you could talk to someone. And this is a lot more complicated than that. And I feel like
Michael
that's
didn't want
to
say this out loud, but he sent me a personal message in Discord and said, I really wish they would choose Microsoft Teams. Look, I think you should just let people know your real thoughts, Michael. Like, you don't have to just share it with me. Like, Teams is an interesting option.
It would
Linux.
not be Teams. Skype. I mean, just use Skype.
Old Skype, yeah.
All right, so they've got a whole new set of backgrounds and themes, which I was excited about. There's some beautiful mountain scenes and things in there that are gorgeous, which frankly, I think should be the default because I haven't been in Mint in a really long time. Now, I recommend Mint to a lot of people who their first experience is Linux. Now more nowadays, it's kind of been Pop! OS or Zorin, but Mint's definitely, I've installed Mint on a lot of people's machines who I want to try Linux. And it's
Mint is in the top 5 for sure.
For sure. Of people's first experience with Linux, Mint's a great one. But when I logged in, I was like, man, it looks exactly the same. Like the wallpaper looks the same to me. The file manager looks the same. The menu looks the same. Now, I know there's differences. The shading's different. There's a little more tighter on the icons and things. But
they actually have a new icon for Linux Mint now, too.
Ultimately, it just looked a lot like the same thing I hadn't seen in 10 years.
Here's what's funny. I decided to change the background just to see what the options were. And I looked and I was like, okay, I'm going to change it back because I'm going to do some video recording to see, kind of like the out of the box experience in the video B-roll stuff. And because I knew we were going to cover it, of course. And when I went to go back, change it back to the default, I clicked the wrong one that looks almost identical to the new one. And to your point about the wallpapers being very similar. They're super similar. And also, it's funny because, some people look at Linux Mint as being outdated and not modern. And partially, the wallpaper is actually part of that issue because it does feel a little bit dated. And if they had like just a simple design, a piece of art that's not just the logo or not just black, that also might be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point because one of the things too that I liked about Mint was the little desklets that you could set up and things, little
Yeah.
widgets.
So nice.
But Michael, when I was looking through some of those desklets, I see Google Calendar. So I can install the Google Calendar desklet, but I can't get Chrome without finding out where the secret button.
Well,
I
you can get Chrome. You just have
You just have to know where to uncheck the box and look for it and all that.
Yes, you have to know. But so first, you have to know how to uncheck the box to get it, and then run it not work, reboot, and then it work. Yeah. So that's the process of.
By the way, I installed another Chrome-based browser after that reboot, and it worked immediately. There was no problem. So it's just that first initial
Chrome
launch of any Chrome, after Chrome. So I first installed Brave because Brave is verified, so it would show up. So I did choose that first, and it did not work. So I did Vivaldi. It also did not work. And then Chrome and Chromium, same thing. They all did not work. Then I rebooted it, and they all worked. So it's something to do with the Chromium engine or something,
just during
not just the particular particular browser itself.
Yeah.
The first run of that engine somehow has a problem.
Outside of that, there's less printer added notifications. So it gets silenced for 2 hours after you add one, and a whole bunch of other Wayland improvements and key binding stuff and all kinds of neat things in there.
Key binding stuff is very nice because so first of all, keyboard shortcuts are amazing. If you're not used to using them, you should consider it. Regardless of what just desktop you use or what distro you use, they're fantastic. But in Mint, for a long time, you had to know where stuff was. You couldn't just search for it. So you can now also search for specific key bindings, like the bindings themselves. And that is fantastic. So if you want to say, something is Control-Alt something, but you don't know, you can search for that. And that's fantastic because they just made it easier to find things and be able to quickly set your custom ones or just know what they are in general.
Yep. And you've got improved precision in reporting for your VPN and battery states for your desklets there or applets, which I think is pretty cool.
Awesome.
So I think default wallpaper should have been the CPU wallpaper that they have in their Wilma only section because it's bomb. It looks so
beautiful.
Cool. And maybe put Linux Mint across it or something. That would have made it look a little more modern. And but otherwise, it's Linux Mint. Like, in one way, I'm like, hey, there's not a lot of stuff here that you're going to see that if you used Mint 8 years ago is going to look a whole lot different. Things are sharper, text is sharper, that type of stuff. Otherwise, it's a lot of the same. And maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe that's a good thing, right? Because one of the reasons we like Mint is the simplicity of getting into it.
Exactly. And I think that's the beauty of it. And one of the reasons that we can recommend it to new users.
Yep. Yeah.
And, it follows the Windows paradigm of desktop. So those coming from Windows, it's really easy to use, especially with the Cinnamon edition.
Yeah, that's what I used. I chose, by the way, was the Cinnamon edition. There are other options out there for those that want it, but that's their bread and butter is the Cinnamon edition for Linux Mint. So.
Yeah, and that's the most commonly used. And also, since they make Cinnamon, most people are going to be using Cinnamon anyway.
Yeah,
it's for people who need lighter weight desktop environments like Mate or XFC because they're using older hardware. Then they would probably pick that, and that makes sense. But most people are going to pick Cinnamon.
Yeah,
I think they're also a great choice for those who are on the fence about snaps. Mint does a lot of work getting away from the snap world. So if you like Ubuntu, you like the stability of Ubuntu, but you don't want to deal with all the snap integrations, then Mint is a great choice for you there. Zorn's my gold standard nowadays. That's what I use on my desktop. Like I've just really love Zorn and kind of how it sets things up. It's just very, very gorgeous.
It is kind of ironic though that you like Zorn so much, and Zorn they don't have hardware enablement.
Yeah. Well, I like Zorn now on my computer since I can't upgrade anymore because the prices of everything are so ridiculous. If I was upgrading all the time, I probably wouldn't like Zorn because of the hardware enablement thing. But I don't have any hardware enablement issues because who's going to spend $1,300 for a new GPU?
That's a good point.
Not this guy.
It works. The hardware enablement is not as important if you can't upgrade.
If you can't upgrade, you're not getting a new machine right away. Yeah, and I don't know if Zorn does anything behind the scenes to do more hardware enablement or not. I've not really come across that. But Mint's very good. One suggestion for Mint, by the way, is when I was writing this topic, it wasn't easy getting to a section to tell me what the new features of Mint 22 were from their official site. There was no clear news section. I eventually found a news section in the page itself, the main page, but not through the menus. And this took me a while. Then I ended up on like a blog that
the blog
had
is a separate thing. Yeah.
how to upgrade. Linux Wilma released, but there were no feature like release link, but there were no features listed on that page. And then there was 2 monthly news articles in the blog that didn't mention Wilma. Then there was a beta release announcement, which I clicked, and that inside of that article had a link finally to say Linux Mint 22 new features. And the release notes themselves only contained bugs and workarounds. There was no features and things listed there. So my suggestion for Linux Mint is you've got a lot of information out there, but I think it's too spread out. You need to maybe put all of that into the release notes, have your bugs and everything, plus your features right there. It just makes it easier to write up about it and for people to find out what's going on with it. Outside of that, I think Linux Mint is awesome. If you're a Mint fan, you definitely want to try out this version. If you've been thinking about trying Mint, definitely try out this version. Just make sure you do that reboot before you try anything Chromium.
Yeah. Well, something I just looked up now because of course this is what the 32-bit version is. It's the 32-bit version is the Linux Mint Debian edition. And that's
the
what
Debian edition it hasn't been updated for this.
It hasn't been updated in a long time, but it still supports, the one that's there, 32-bit. So yeah.
So Linux Mint 22 does not have 32-bit.
Yeah.
Just so people know, the difference between Linux Mint and LMDE is the Debian edition, and LMDE 6 is the current one, I think. And that's updated once a year.
Once a year, yeah. Faye, F-A-Y-E. Faye.
If Ubuntu's hardware enablement is like a scooter, then Debian hardware enablement
is like a broken skateboard.
Yeah.
So as long as you have one truck, and if you can manual, then you can use it.
Yeah. So I can tell you a little bit about my. I upgraded from Linux Mint 21.3 Virginia to Linux Mint 22 Wilma. Using the excellent official Mint upgrade tool from the Mint Software Manager on my Linux Mint computer, which right now is an upgraded Dell Optiplex machine. It's perfect for Mint. And nice. And that computer has actually an NVIDIA GTX 1650 Super in it.
Nice.
That I read it up.
A very powerful GPU for an Optiplex.
Yes, it is. And I actually spent a little work on that, making sure that it's working well with the low-powered power supply, and it works beautifully, actually.
That's awesome.
So the Mint upgrade tool, upgrade to Linux Mint 22 Wilma, is actually still a work in progress. They're still working out the bugs and kinks. And, some people have experienced bugs with it. But I had no problems with it, with my machine. And for me, it took a few hours, but it worked great. So I'm sure the speed...
A few hours seems a bit much.
Yeah, a few hours, because the speed, I'm sure, will be improved, because when I went from Ubuntu 23.10 to Ubuntu 24.04, that was like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
that's crazy. What would it be doing for 2 hours?
That's a bit much. So the difference between 21.3 to 22 for Mint is massive.
It's huge.
Yeah. It's the same as 2204 to 2404. So there is a significant amount.
Is it like Windows 3.11 to Windows 2000 type of huge? Or
I have no idea. That's a reference that I don't know.
Oh, I've been
I know
there,
what you're talking about. I just never did those upgrades. But so the thing is, I feel like this is still too long. That couple hours is still too much.
Yes.
But it is a significant thing. So I just want people to know that 21.3 to 22 sounds like it's not a big jump. It is a huge jump, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And like we were, saying earlier, it's a huge and welcome change for Linux Mint 22, allowing users to upgrade to a new Linux kernel when an Ubuntu 24.04 LTS point release is made available. which wasn't automatically available with older Linux Mint releases. So
Right.
this is really huge.
Yeah.
And, it's a really big deal for those of us that enjoy using Linux Mint and need the latest and greatest drivers and being able to recommend it to new users because we have that upgrade path now.
Right. Yeah. People like
really
like
good.
you and me, not Ryan, because he has old hardware. That's why his other stuff is.
And there is also actually a new default font, which I noticed. It looked a little different. And I was looking into it. It's actually a more modern and slimmer version of the Ubuntu font. And it looks really nice.
I
But
chose
just a little
Wingdings.
slimmer.
I didn't see the new one.
Yeah.
Wingdings is probably the best. It's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yes. Or Comic Sans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Papyrus.
Yes,
I think
Papyrus is good. Or
classic.
I'm gonna see if they have Wingdings.
Random.
As an option here.
It shouldn't be. Please, I hope it's not. But also,
Dang it.
I hope it's not, just so people don't do it. But I also kind of want.
I'm kind of upset it's not there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
it's a weird. I have like a catch-22 in my own head of like I want it to be, and I also don't want it to be.
Yeah.
I would have given them a 10 out of 10 had they done Wingdings. But there's another one that's just symbols though, so I'm gonna switch to that. And that looks great.
Oh boy, Ryan!
I'll take a screenshot and
your life in your own hands.
Now I want you to close the settings app and then try to open it back up and find everything.
Well, one of my favorite features of Linux Mint Cinnamon, just in general in the last few years, is the applet system, which is fantastic. It's just so easy to install and manage applets and plugins in the system panel. And like I often use Nightlight and then brightness and gamma applet, which is particularly useful for adjusting the brightness when using an AMD GPU when there's not other options for adjusting brightness. So I just found the applets just so easy to use. It's probably the easiest system of any of the DEs, really.
Yeah.
Just very well done.
Plasma would like to have a conversation with you, Jill.
Oh, I know. The Plasma is easy, but I think the Cinnamon one is even a little even easier. I don't know. Yeah. Just visually. It's not as cluttered.
I haven't played with the applets or desklets yet, so I couldn't say. But it's possible.
Yeah. But I do love the KDE version too. And one of the reasons, that Linux Mint is so loved by Linux users is the ease of use of its in-house built Cinnamon desktop, which we've been talking about. And yeah, it does follow that paradigm of the Windows desktop and, really is an excellent choice for new Linux users. And I wanted to say my local Linux user group, Linux Chicks of Los Angeles, often use Linux Mint as, the default install for new Linux users in our Linux Install Fests and on the computers that we raffle off at the Southern California Linux Expo. And we also use it for local and worldwide nonprofits where we donate, our time upgrading older machines and putting Linux on them so that these businesses are not bound by expensive proprietary software. And, every nonprofit we have done this with and installed Linux Mint, love how easy it is to use, to how easy it is to learn Linux with, and then it runs the software they need. And us Linux chicks love it because it's set up and forget it with very little maintenance.
The phrase you're looking for was from that infomercial that is notorious is set it and forget.
Set it and forget it. Yeah. I said set up and forget. I said set up because it's a computer rig. You set it up.
Okay. That's more accurate, but it doesn't have the same ring to it.
This is true.
So hey, just real quick, Ryan, I have found an easy way to get to the what's new. It is a little bit awkward, so I agree that they should still change it. So on the front page of your website, you should just have a little link that says what's new in 22. And if you click download and then you scroll down to the Cinnamon edition and then a little tiny text that says new features, you can click that.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I didn't notice it at all either. I went to look specifically to see if there was a faster way to find it. Yeah. I did almost exactly the same thing you did. Yeah.
Interesting. So one thing I do want to make sure before we leave this topic to compliment is their welcome screen. I think it's really well done.
Oh yeah,
You've
So
got your
good.
first steps in there with desktop colors, system snapshots, so you can do your backups, driver manager, which is really important. A lot of people first time in Linux may not know that. Your updates, your system settings, your software manager, and a firewall setup using UFW GUI, which I love that they have that. Your documentation, and your way to get help and support through the chat room, which gets a link to make it really easy to join their chat room.
Well,
So you have to sign up, but it
gives you a link to open the chat room.
well, it automatically puts you in Linux Mint as your first.
No, because you have to have an account. When you click,
once you create your account, yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And then you've got web forums too.
Creation.
So they have web forums, which is a good option.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to say I think the welcome thing is one of the best. There's a lot of distros are now doing it, which by the way, all distros should do it if you want people to use it and know what's important to be presented to them. Do that. I think that this is one of the best. And also I love the fact that the time shift system is right there. You just click it and activate the snapshots and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And the cool thing about it is that by default, it does not store your files. It doesn't it's just system snapshots, not regular snapshots. And I personally do not want my files in the home folder to be stored in this system stuff because I don't save stuff on my system. I have like special drives for sold, or not special, but specific
floppy
drives.
Disk. He has floppy disk.
Of course, I have floppy disk.
He's unhackable,
not the 3.5, but the 5.5.
Good.
So,
Nice.
yeah, of course. So, because I want less storage space. So I would say that this is good for me, but I also loved the fact that they have an option for if you don't want to do your home folders, you can do the config files in your home folder, which
nice.
in my opinion is probably the best way to do it, even out of default. But I know why. I get why they don't do it by default. They say hidden files. That's the only thing I would say change is because it says hidden files and a user who's new wouldn't know what that means. So like, why is it hidden? What is this? Maybe if it's supposed to be hidden, I shouldn't have it in the thing or that sort of stuff. So I would change that to config files because that's more likely what they are.
Yeah, I don't need the config files because I just leave stuff default. But I see
that
why
is
other
true.
people
You have
would
no
want to.
customization effort.
Well,
whatsoever.
there'll be a Batman wallpaper as long as it brings that over. We're good.
But overall, I think Linux Mint is a very good solution. I think 22 has a lot of good upgrades. They're not like visual, like impactful upgrades. They're all like niceties and just better to
Behind
use
the
and
scenes,
just
love
better
Nice.
experience,
usability stuff,
faster, smoother, things like that. And also getting extra stuff like pipe wire and all that sort of stuff. So all of our complaints are kind of like nitpicky. Like, it's like, how could we make this a little bit better is how we're looking at it, because Mint is still Mint and it's pretty good.
Yeah. I would be sad if we didn't have Mint as an option.
Right. I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. However, one quick thing. I am so glad, I don't remember when they did it, that they upgraded their website to have like a more modern look. And it looks like, oh, okay, it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go to their forum and it's bad. So,
but you know how much of a pain it is to maintain a forum, so I can't really blame them there.
Forums are giant pain, especially one that they've had for this long. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of posts probably. I didn't look, but I would just, because it's been 10, 15 years, it's probably a massive forum. So I don't know how you would upgrade it necessarily, but like maybe just change the theme a little bit so it's not just tons of green. Give a little bit of a contrast.
Don't take Michael's advice. Just keep working on Mint. Leave your forum looking like it's from AOL days, and we're good. It's just a forum.
Well, I mean, people are using the forum to get help and stuff. So people, like, there's a reason. It's not just me complaining or nothing. It's just
all right. Well, Michael, since we're done with the Linux Mint topic, I have a question for you. I recently, broke my laptop in half, and I need to figure out what to do with it.
Is that because you spent too much time in the gym and you just picked it up and accidentally broke it?
Picked it up and snapped the thing.
Yeah, I believe it. 100%. 100%. I knew you would. Of course you did.
Broke it.
Broke
an
it.
accident.
Yes, he thought he was picking up some dumbbells, but in fact he was picking up the laptop and just whoosh, and it just happened. He threw it over his head and it hit the wall. So I have a solution for you, Ryan.
All right, thanks, Michael.
You could still use that sort of, kind of, maybe, but let's let's face it, people are sick of constant tracking ads, every services, all these like different things that are constantly just annoying you with, like, hey, here we do cookies, and like, of course you do. All websites.
Well, I like that you
but
got
also
Netflix and Amazon and Roku and everyone that you're paying monthly fees to, and then they're like, oh, now your monthly fees aren't good enough. Now you get ads too on top of your monthly fees. So
it's so annoying.
That is messed up. The fact that Netflix did it is kind of not that weird because Netflix started with like, okay, they are a media company that is that purpose. I mean, I can kind of see, I don't like it, but I can kind of see how it works. But with Amazon, it's like you already run everything. and I bought Amazon Prime when I remember when it was $70 for an entire year and you got everything. And now it's 120 something or 100 and whatever. And every year it gets more and more expensive. And now you still get ads
too.
You still have to get
Yay.
Like, it's just unbelievable. Everybody's whole goal in corporate America now is just to see how far they can push everyone. And unfortunately, people just keep taking it. Like these services exist because we were sick of ads on the other services.
Yes.
And now they've become the enemy.
So all the cord cutters have now got to the point where cutting the cord is the worst option.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous, right?
It's the whole Star Wars. You were the chosen one. What has happened?
Yeah, and it's just as expensive
Don't even
as,
bring up Star Wars. It's
cable, cable or fiber, because you're paying for all these extra services now, and they add up to be about the same as paying for
you might as well
classic
just put
cable
the cord
TV.
back in now and forget about all this other crap. It's unbelievable.
At this point, if you have all the services, and also as a huge NBA fan, there's a whole new media buy happening next year for NBA. So if you want to watch all of the NBA, you now have to get a Peacock account, a Prime account, and watch it regularly on NBC. You also have to have a league pass. And I think one other thing just to watch the stuff you want to watch.
It's great.
So,
what a great plan. Man,
fantastic.
they really thought that one through. Yeah, unbelievable.
Well, they did think it through. They got like $17 billion.
And if that's not bad enough, when you go and buy your TV to watch this stuff on, it also wants to track you.
Yeah.
It also wants to have a micro. I saw someone ask on Reddit, how can a TV possibly track you? It's just a screen. It's the microphone inside. You know, the thing where you push to be like, hey, turn on Apple TV or turn on Roku or turn on Netflix or whatever. Or talking to search where you're like, show me the latest movie. In Michael's case, like, where are the latest My Little Pony episodes? And when you do that, it has a microphone that's listening in. That's your favorite show, Michael. It's okay. You let people know. And Care Bears?
Okay, sure.
Or My Little Pony?
Sure. Care Bear Stare is my thing.
By the way, I mean, let's decide right here. Are Care Bears superior to My Little Pony?
I don't know why this is a debate in the first place.
Oh, boy.
For two reasons I don't understand why it's a debate. First, why are we talking about this? That is weird. Two, obviously it's Care Bears. What are you talking about?
Well, you got to throw strawberry shortcake in there too, Ryan.
Jill, which one's the best?
Hard one because My Little Pony.
She was doing an audible.
My Little Pony actually is so well written, especially those first two seasons. It was so funny.
Huh, never heard those words together for My Little Pony.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of famous people worked on those episodes.
Okay, I would like to change my answer to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good one too. But Care Bears is a lot older. It came out when I was younger. So that one has a special, place in my heart.
Of those two, I would pick Care Bears. But also, Ryan, now since we've gone through this whole gauntlet of Care Bears or My Little Pony, what do you pick?
Well, obviously He-Man. He-Man was the greatest.
Obviously, He-Man is one of the best.
He-Man is one of my favorites.
You're not allowed to choose that. Remember, you have to choose one of these two.
I mean, because my daughter loves all things animals, the only correct answer here is both. But I believe Pony slightly more, so I'm going to go with My Little Pony because of that.
Okay,
so.
All right.
Yeah, your daughter is that perfect.
You've heard it here first, people.
For My Little Pony, and she's a really, really good expert on the subject.
You heard it here first, people.
For some reason, you heard it here first. I don't know why, but you have
on your Linux podcast. And
So some people, we actually got some new patrons this week. Yay. So just real quick, you have officially saved a penguin. Yes. Well done.
Yeah.
And also
and save Jill's job.
Yeah, right, exactly. And a couple people were like, we just love the banter between you guys and like how it's so funny and entertaining. And now I just want to apologize for talking about Care Bears and My Little Pony.
They just canceled their patron. Look at that. Ding, ding, ding.
How did they even know?
I should wear my Care Bears sweatshirt next week.
Yes, please do.
I have one.
Michael will wear his too.
And Ryan will wear his My Little Pony shirt.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. Since we're on tangents anyway, I got to tell this story since we're on the thing. So this is what happened at work this week. For whatever reason, we come up with the dumb idea. We sit in the corner. They put all the bad kids in the corner, right? We sit in the corner and then we decided we were going to all dress up as cowboys and for the next day and not tell our boss. We were just going to show up in cowboy hats, cowboy boots, sit down at our desks, and it was just some stupid idea. And guess who's the only one who showed up that day in a cowboy hat, cowboy boot, and
Ryan did the right thing.
Yeah, the rest of them start. I come in first in the day. I sit down. I'm so excited for my peers to come in, and they're just in regular clothes, and they're like, "Well, I forgot. You didn't send me a reminder." And I was just like.
To that we say yeehaw.
Yeehaw. So if you think at this point I'm scared to wear a My Little Pony shirt, Michael, you're wrong. I will rock that shirt.
We should all dress up like cowboys next time.
Yeah.
No, I know this trick now.
Yeah, I used to when I was a little kid. I loved the cowboy hats and the pretty sequins on the shirts and the boots. I used to love that.
Did you have the sequins on the shirt, Ryan?
Unfortunately, not. I'll next time I'm wearing. No. So, anyways, all right, Michael. What are we even talking about?
At this point, I don't even know. But let's go back to the topic. So we were talking about ads from Netflix and Amazon Prime. Well, anyway, one Linux user found a way to make use of an old damaged piece of hardware, a laptop. So Ryan could take the one he mistook for being dumbbells and fix it and use it as a smart TV for his house.
Genius.
So he said after spilling some tea on an old Lenovo laptop and then buying a discount Samsung TV, but not wanting to utilize its built-in smart functions because, Ryan was talking about the one of the things that the worst part is that Samsung is probably the worst offender for this kind of thing. And some of them have remotes where you have to activate it before it listens to your voice, which is, that's the only good way of doing that. They're still tracking you probably, but at least it doesn't do it all times. Samsung, as at least based on my old research, because I don't know if they've updated, probably not, but they were found to have constantly listening to you no matter what.
Yeah.
Good job, Samsung. Anyway, so he decided to not use those tools, which is great, and start using his own smart functions through his laptop. And basically, he built his own out of the remnants of his laptop.
It's such a great use case of a old laptop, right? Because you don't need a lot of power to have these smart TV boxes.
You could just have a Raspberry Pi or one of those compute sticks,
exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, they don't just track you from the microphone now. They also, when you turn on these smart features, will ask you, can I discover other items on your network? That sounds to enable things like Bluetooth and speakers. And you're like, yeah. So it's also, getting all the devices on your network and tracking you that way and your IP and everything else going on. So it knows what other devices you have.
When an app asks you for your location when it doesn't need it, or when it asks you for your contacts and it has nothing to do with contacts.
Yeah.
It's that sort of stuff. But also here's one thing I will say, if you're in the market for a new TV and you want to get one that doesn't do it as bad, I don't know how, I don't know what the best, because there's no such thing as a dumb TV anymore. They all have these smart tools smart tools, quote unquote. But LG, I've noticed, has a pretty good setup because WebOS, while is historically fantastic, not great on the TV I have. Maybe it's just because it's an underpowered TV and it might be better in another one, whatever. But what's cool is that it doesn't start doing some of the tools unless you agree to some kind of, EULA or whatever. And that's great because I just never agreed to any of it, and it doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good solution. At least they give you an option. So there you go.
Yeah. Do you know, with my Samsung Frame TV, I actually am using an aftermarket remote, and I SSH'd into Tizen and disabled a lot of stuff.
Nice. Jill hacked her TV.
I spent hours
That's
on
what's
it.
up.
That's
That's
awesome.
the hack right there. That's even cooler than zip tying a laptop to the back of your
We didn't even mention the zip tie part.
Oh, yeah. He zip tied it. Like, he didn't do anything fancy here. He just literally, and I love that about it. It was a simple, like, hey, this laptop, the screen doesn't work anymore, but the processor and stuff's good. Let me zip tie this thing to the back of the TV.
I think he also took off the screen entirely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then just use a customized Firefox with user chrome.css file to get the TV appearance and the apps he wanted, and then used a USB powered CEC adapter to be able to turn on the TV and laptop simultaneously, just like if you had a smart box. So it's just a really cool, fun solution that if you've got some extra hardware lying around, which, Michael, don't you have like a closet full of old laptops, or did you finally donate all those?
I actually did donate that. Okay, so for those who don't know, if you go back for a
Like
couple of years ago. Yeah, if you want, I also used to be an archaic lord, apparently, with laptops. So if you go back, this is actually like 4 or 5 years ago at this point now. I guess Ryan doesn't remember that I got rid of them because he gave me such a hard time for having them. But I used to have this bookcase behind me in another place, and there was so many laptops that it filled up the entire block right here, and then also kept going a few more anyway.
Yeah.
And that was because I just had so many over the years, and I also had people give them to me. They're like, "Hey, I don't want this anymore. Do you want it?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" The reason why not is that I didn't have a purpose, and they just sat there forever. But that is a solution I could have used, but instead I gave them away. Like Goodwill and that sort of stuff.
I love that Carl Reese, the creator, actually, his desktop is called Earl Grey TV because he had spilled Earl Grey tea on the laptop.
Or it's a Picard Star Trek reference.
Exactly.
I thought it was the Picard reference, but also the fact that it's tea that was spilled is also fantastic.
Yes.
I actually, I would like to suggest he update the name of it and be Earl Grey TEAV. So like.
Oh, yes.
I like, he's already doing the pun. I just mean like fully embrace the pun is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool that he took this to the next level and is not just using a default Kodi or LibreElec interface on the Raspberry Pi. He's custom built his own desktop.
Yeah, that's dope. That's awesome. Very cool stuff. So I like this. It's an inspiration for people wanting to get away from and asking what's the best set-top boxes. There are other things you can do there too, but what a great use of old hardware there. But we're not just here to talk about old hardware. There's new hardware rumor out there, Michael.
Yeah.
This one's going to get your attention.
Okay, let's see. All right, see.
So I've talked about on this show my love for the Razer 2023 Plus flip phone. And by the way, there's a new 2024 Razer flip phone that's out right now. So if you want to get the latest version of that, to me, that's most convenient. Talked about in the last episode for being able to fold it, put it in your pocket, but still have that full form factor phone when you need it. But Apple, right? The kings of innovation still don't have a foldable device. And it's been rumored forever that they're going to get a foldable device. And we are going to add to that rumor forever here by talking about another rumor that one's going to be coming out. Not this next one, apparently, but 2026 will be when they're supposedly going to have this around.
It's interesting that there's a rumor about them having a flip phone or a foldable phone. And that's interesting. Two things. One, this is the best flip phone ever created.
Yes, absolutely, Michael.
This is what we need.
Phone.
So for those who really want the latest and greatest technology, is to get one of these from 2006.
Yes.
And the other thing is, you said that Apple, the innovator, I think you're using the wrong word. the delayer, the copying of
Copycat?
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
They're good at perfecting the tech, often, a few years later.
They do
Okay.
perfect the tech.
They do kind of make it better, and when they
They
implement
steal it and then
they're the
Far away.
adventurers.
Yes.
What the foldable phone is getting really popular. I didn't realize how popular, but global shipments reportedly are up 49% year over year for foldable phones. So they are really increasing in popularity, and rightfully so. It's the only innovative thing in phones for a long time that you can outwardly actually see, not just faster processor, better camera. And additionally to the perfection part, the rumor is that Apple is focusing right now. They're working with Samsung on the aesthetics being perfect. So there is none of that the crease that Michael mentioned bothered. So if Apple's going to do it, they're going to do it so that it's perfect. There's no crease in the middle. And I don't know how they're going to do that, but it's already apparently got a code name and they're working on it.
Apple, if you are somehow able to create a folding phone that does not have a crease, I guess I'll have a folding phone from Apple at some point.
Yeah, be worth.
I mean, the only reason I don't have a problem with iPhones or anything. Like a phone, I'm not really a big phone person, but like I don't like the folding phones because of that crease. We talked about how Microsoft made the Duo or something. And it was cool because it just embraced the bezel, and it was also super light because it was able to like kind of put half the stuff in one phone and half in the other part of it, and it worked. But they marketed they just threw it in the ground because of their marketing was so bad. But I don't like the crease because it just kind of like it's at certain angles it's not there, and then it just kind of shows up and jumps in your face, and that bothers me. So if Apple's able to somehow perform some magic and make that not happen, I'd be interested.
But why would Samsung give it to Apple before they give it to themselves? Like, is Samsung going to have it at the same time as Apple, or what's Samsung's play here? Because I know they make a lot of parts for Apple, but that's got to be an interesting competitive situation because Samsung's heavily in foldables. I don't recommend Samsung because of their privacy policy, but they've got some of the best foldables out there. And are they going to give Apple the chance to have a creaseless foldable screen before they do it themselves? I
think they'll probably do it at the same time, and they let Apple's engineers try to figure out how to make it work, and then also make one for themselves. But then they still sell the equipment to Apple, so they could still make a bunch of money off of that.
I can't wait till
that's probably why
we run out of innovative ideas, and it just goes back to now we have a removable battery. Now we have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Now and they bring back all the stuff they've taken away over there.
Yeah, from the normal stuff 10 years ago.
Now comes with a wall charger.
Well, Apple's probably
that's so ridiculous that's still
Apple's
a problem.
probably going to hire the Samsung engineers to fix the screen, and then Samsung's going to turn around and sell those screens to them.
There you go. It's possible.
And also, I think it'd be interesting if it does go back. But I also started seeing random, YouTube just started recommending random videos of people taking their iPhone or their Android phone and turning it into a light phone, where they just remove a bunch of features to stop them from having doom scrolling on their social media stuff. I'm like, okay, so we are going back to this. It's got so far that now they're just pulling it back. It's already started.
Go back to the beginning. Soon be on dial-up again.
Yeah.
Okay, don't pull back that.
It is just so ironic that we're going back to the flip phone form factor.
Yeah, it is.
The phones of yesteryear.
I mean, it's a much more advanced flip device, but it is.
What are you talking about? Yeah. I had super fast flipping of my phone.
Plus, with more Star Trek-y,
Yeah, exactly.
This actually does feel a little more Star Trek-y. You can't talk into it like this. So it's not, if you could do it this way, I actually would like it, but then you couldn't hear. I guess it's a problem, but
speakerphone, Michael.
I was like a super typer on the T9,
Oh, yeah.
And then also the smartphone came out and I was like, I still want T9, but this is better, I guess.
Yeah.
It took a minute to get used to that going from the T9. All right, Jill, take us into gaming. What do you got for us?
Yeah. So Halloween is right around the corner. Not.
What do you mean? What is it? It's July. You got August, September, October. There are
Halloween decorations
out.
It's like 2 months away. So it's kind of.
Was I right
okay.
this time?
Yeah.
It's right around the corner, but that corner is very big.
Oh,
It's like a
very big corner.
It's a big roundabout
It's
style
a
corner.
quarter of a year. Let's say that.
That's what we're
But it's okay, Ryan. I'm just teasing you. Ryan
It's
wrote that.
It's
Halloween
closer
is-
than the whole June for Christmas.
Next week we're doing our Christmas gift guide.
Oh, there we go. Well,
Never mind.
Anyways, it's okay, Ryan, because even Disneyland is already putting out their Halloween merch. So
There you go.
So you can get into the holiday spirit by playing the game Bella Wants Blood. Do do do. So
Okay, real
Definitely
quick,
not
people
scared of the name.
the developers of this game, you need to clip that part of Jill saying.
That was great, man. That was so good.
That'd be awesome if they just had like a trailer where that's how they started it.
Yeah. This game already has 53 positive reviews and describes itself like this. Entertain the godlike Bella's thirst for blood in this absurd, bite-sized, roguelike terror defense game. This game is not for kids, but the violence is portrayed in beautifully hand-drawn cartoons and is a 2D top-down tower defense-based game. And some of the features of Bella Wants Blood include 7 bosses to defeat, 53 powerful unlocks, 2 to 4 hours of core gameplay, and endless high score and achievement hunting. Bella Wants Blood. Dun dun dun.
Jill makes the scary things not scary anymore.
I know, I'm sorry, I can't do it.
It's so cute. It's like, I'm really not that scared of the game anymore.
So Bella Wants Blood is actually incredibly atmospheric with eerie music, penetrating sound effects, and hauntingly beautiful design, and gets the well thought out story across with just a few colors: red, gray, black, white, and tan. And her maniacal smile begs you to play more. Her mouth opening is even used as a transition from one screen to the next. Like when you quit the game, Bella says, "Say pretty please," and you have to click the pretty please button to exit.
Oh man, that's great.
It's very well done. And it's only $4.99 on Steam and has a free demo you can try. But I was really impressed with this game.
It reminds me of Binding of Isaac a little bit.
Exactly. I was thinking about that as well. Good callback.
And that's a super popular game. Probably one of the most popular independent games of the last.
Yeah, it's still super popular now.
It is.
It's been around for years. But also this, it's interesting because Ryan comes up with some weird games for this show sometimes. And
you're welcome, world.
To the developers of this, you were very apt to be part of that weird choice.
Yeah.
Like this is
very
this
creepy.
is interesting.
Yeah, very
but I also like the fact that they call it they acknowledge it is absurd. Mm-hmm. And that's fun. And also they call it, instead of a tower defense, they call it terror defense.
Terror defense.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah. It's a great Halloween game, but not for kids.
It is. Yeah, not for kids. It's so atmospheric and just so well done and very meta. She
very Facebook? Huh.
No.
A little bit of Instagram too.
It has elements of like Stanley Parable in it, where the humor is just very, hey, you watching this? Go do this or go play this. Huh. She taunts you.
It's like a recording of Michael's girlfriend talking to him.
Oh,
no. I haven't had a chance to play it, so I can't say anything except for that's ridiculous.
Go do this. Yeah. Go do that. Michael.
That is not what happens. She just insinuates that she wants me, and I gladly do so.
She just has the smile.
Very different.
The smile, the Bella smile.
Yeah.
The maniacal smile.
So speaking of taunting, Ryan decided to share a photo of his screenshot with the new symbols font in the chat room. So I'm going to put that in the video
nice.
now. And I was like, so when I saw the first photo before I enlarged it, I was like, why are you showing us this weird, broken, blurry thing? And then I was like, oh, okay, that's what he did.
Yes, for Linux Mint 22, I did indeed find a wingding alternative for everyone out there.
Which wingding number classification did you use?
I don't think it had a name. It was just symbols. I mean,
well, you definitely can't tell what it is now.
Yeah. That's awesome, Ryan.
That VM will have to be deleted. We'll be using that. All right, what's our software spotlight, Jill?
So our software spotlight is a double feature or a double gaming pick.
Nice.
But this one is available as a flat pack, so we're featuring it in the software spotlight. And if you're looking for something in the Halloween spirit, but a lot less creepy than Bella Wants Blood, check out the Catrooms. The Catrooms on Flatpak is described like this. Find all 14 trinkets before the cat emojis get you. Ooh, follow the floating eye to obtain the trinkets before the demonic cats get to you. There are 14 trinkets in total, and the final trinket will have no floating eye to guide you. Instead, the sky will turn more red the closer you are to it. Once you have won the game, the sky will turn yellow. This is actually an old school first-person maze game. So WASD and mouse is all you really need. And the eyeball is actually, for me, it was hard to track. Well, I don't have great vision, so it would pop up. It kind of pops up in the top part of the screen when you're going through the maze. So you need to move really quick so you get closer to the eyeball and then pick up all your trinkets so the cats don't kill you.
Very interesting.
What is wrong with you, Ryan?
Were you saying I did a bad pick? This is great.
I'm just like, what is with these picks? Like,
I picked it. I didn't play it.
Yeah,
that's what Jill would do.
Yeah,
I torture Jill and make her play it before I touch this stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
So the other interesting thing, Ryan and Michael, is that there's no music in this game. So you can play some of your favorite scary tunes in the background, like I did. I actually played Michael Jackson's Thriller because I have to have music when playing a game.
Nice.
So that
Good
seemed
choice.
appropriate. And, once again, it's available as a flat pack on FlatHub or your software repository. And
I'm actually a little bit slightly disappointed that it's not called the Catacombs.
How do you come up with this stuff?
Michael, that was good.
The other thing I'm disappointed
that's
about
really good.
is
And
it
give
says,
me that.
obtain the trinkets before the demonic cats get to you. Isn't that just cats? You don't have the demonic part.
Exactly. That's redundant. I agree.
Yeah.
Very redundant.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've run out of time, so the Firefox tips and tricks is not happening again this week.
Once again.
That's 3 weeks in a row. We'll see if we can get to it in the fourth attempt at this, but we've got the gift of gab on this show.
We didn't get it. Okay, so for those who are very curious, we will get to it. We'll get to the Firefox topic. We just didn't have time because we had to spend. It was very important that we talk about Care Bears in My Little Pony.
Exactly.
By the way, if we don't get to it by 383, if you don't hear the Firefox news in episode 383, Michael will use rat poison for 3 months.
Not
Yay.
at all.
That's the
that
deal.
Means all you're doing is making sure that topic becomes the first topic we cover. That's the only thing.
I mean, I write the show. It's not happening.
I will make it audible. I will adjust it.
I'm just going to do a filibuster for an hour and a half.
Yes, Ryan, maybe just move it to the main topic. There we go. Then we'll cover it.
My favorite episodes of My Little Pony for an hour and a half. And so, Michael.
Luckily, I did not agree to this one, so it's not happening.
The episodes of John Delancey, otherwise known as the Q from Star Trek The Next Generation, and Voyager is awesome.
I did not know that was a thing, but I'm kind of intrigued.
He was one of the voice actors.
All right, all you My Little Ponies out there, we want to thank you.
Yes.
For your support.
Okay. Sure.
By watching or listening to Destination Linux.
We appreciate that you care Bear so much for the show.
We've got Swifties, we've got Bronies, Ponies, all the stuff out there. So,
I don't know what the Care Bear people are called, but like whatever.
Care Bearers.
Care Bearers. Yeah, that could be it.
Come join
Care
us
Bears.
in our Discord. Go to tuxdigital.com/Discord. You'll find a section there just for My Little Pony shows and for Care Bear shows as well, where you can discuss your favorite episodes, or Linux if you want, I guess.
Or Linux, what the show is technically about. It's not Destination Care Bear, but who knows at some point.
It could be. If you want to watch this show live, you become a patron of Destination Linux, and you can hear more of our ridiculous antics, because believe it or not, a lot of it gets cut out, because of time. We run out of time.
We're already like 20 minutes over.
Yeah. Somehow. Well, we know why.
We know why, yes. So if you would like to become a patron, you can go to tuxdigital.com/membership, and you can sign up and get a ton of cool perks. The best perk is that you can join us in the patron-only post show that happens every week after the show. And you can also go into the patron-only section of our Discord server, which is where we stream the show. So you can join us, you can listen to the show as we record it, and then also join us in the patron-only post show right after. You can go to tuxdigital.com/membership to get that. And you'll also be supporting the show and saving the
best
penguins.
benefit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best benefit right there. Because if you don't support the show, a penguin goes.
Exactly. You see all those penguins in the background of Jill's? They might go away.
Like an old Red Lobster thing. We'll pick the penguin out that gets picked, out of the aquarium, like we picked the lobster, It'll be the same kind of thing. Pick that one.
Exactly. So if you don't want that to happen, go to tuxdigital.com/membership. And also, if you'd like to support the show, you can order some swag. We have some cool stuff. We got t-shirts like the one I'm wearing, the This Week in Linux shirt as well. We also have a ton of other stuff and nothing that Ryan picks up and shows. And so you go to tuxdigital.com/store to get all of that cool swag and more.
Yeah. And make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right. We have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with gooky goodness.
You know what the best part about this is?
I wrote it in there.
You wrote it as gooky goodness because of for those who don't know,
gooky
a couple weeks ago, accidentally Jill changed it, but now she's trying to purposely make it bad.
Yeah.
And it somehow is closer to it's like it's just not working.
It's just not working. Yeah.
You can't make it bad. It's good either way. So okay. But at some point we're gonna be saying it wrong for so long and be like, what are you even saying?
Why don't you guys just change that last section instead of sounding like you don't know what you're doing?
Oh, it's like what Michael does with This Week in Linux.
Yeah, because I say like the smash button instead.
The smash button. So that's I guess my version of like the smash button.
I like it.
The best part about the like the smash button is that I've been doing it for at least 200 episodes, and I still occasionally get someone saying it's like the first time they ever heard it, or some people thinking that I took it from someone, and it's like it's not that unique of a thing. So,
I think it's great. And speaking of This Week in Linux, for your source for Linux Weekly Good News, which is a weekly video podcast that Michael hosts that takes you through all the happenings of Linux and open source each and every week. And that's one of our amazing shows here on Tux Digital. And make sure to watch Michael's awesome distro guide for new Linux users, whether you're new to Linux, a Linux expert, or everything in between. It is just so much great information.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic video. And Ryan will also give it a little bit of credit too, because at the end of that video, I say, now that you're more comfortable with picking your distro, you might want to pick a podcast, and then I bring them here.
Look at that. Well done, Michael. Well done.
And everyone head to tuxdigital.com and subscribe to all our great shows. And don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite app so others can discover the power of open source and keep those penguins marching in the full Monte of Linux and open source awesome sauce.
All right, ponies and Care Bears, everybody have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Aww.
Is that McDonald's or a rainbow? I don't know.
It's a rainbow.
Yeah, that's a rainbow for Care Bears and for ponies worldwide.
I was actually thinking. I was just thinking reading Rainbow at that point.
Yeah, there's that too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you guys still here listening? The show's over. You got to be a patron if you want to hear the rest. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
We love you.